the two hemispheres of the brain are not meant to talk to each other very much unless, the left and right hemispheres, which look at everything, by the way, but they process it for very different reasons, but they look at everything. So that's, that's a lie that, this left brain, right brain, it doesn't work that way. But they do look at them for very different purposes. They're only supposed to talk to each other when something rises to a certain level in the default mode network where it needs both attention and context hemispheres to talk to each other. Okay. Well, 95%, maybe more than that, of the corpus callosum, which is what regulates, little ball of neurons that regulates the communications back and forth, is inhibitory. So what winds up happening with types of brain injuries is the corpus callosum gets damaged and the two hemispheres talk to each other too much. And they talk to each other about shit that naturally they shouldn't have talked to each other about at all.
Okay.
And then what happens is, yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, just adding to keep going, adding the environmental toxicity and adding inflammation to that just expounds on the problem.
Exacerbates it, terribly. So
I like how you put that. That was perfect.
Well,
too much shit.
Yeah, it was just, it's like, shut up, right? So again, about 60% of what the brain does 24/7, a healthy brain, is tell itself to shut up. The problem is that when you get a brain injury and the corpus callosum inevitably gets damaged the most, the two hemispheres are talking to each other. Well, the problem is the left hemisphere doesn't actually even believe the right hemisphere exists. So it's just screaming through this network, facts, details, data, points, agitation. Yeah, it's estrogen. It's female, right? And the right hemisphere is over there like, there's a threat right there. Can't you see it? But the left hemisphere can't hear that at all. The right hemisphere does know the left hemisphere exists and knows that it needs to feed information because the right hemisphere is looking broad field for threats in context or opportunities in context. The left hemisphere is for control. And so it gets, something that it needs to control, and it works out all the complex, data and structures and processes and mechanics to actually exercise some action. But without context, without the proper broad field context, what the left hemisphere is trying to control is not always necessarily something to even exist, much less something that needs to be controlled. And so what winds up happening, and I suspect this is what's happening to your brother and his friends, is they are constantly exhausted.
Oh yeah. He's always out of energy.
Right? Yeah. And this was, for me, it was crushing exhaustion. I mean, like unreal. And I've been a triathlete, Ironman triathlete. I've been through selection twice, never been as tired. Just constant, steady, never ending exhaustion. The kind where I could barely keep my eyes open, but I couldn't sleep because also I had severe brain injuries, right? So my sleep was all over the place. Generally what happens with folks, it sounds like with your brother, is that he's just exhausted because the two hemispheres of the brain are talking to each other too much. And he doesn't, aside from even that, his brain is constantly firing off because the inhibitory neurons aren't telling, that 60% of their job is shut up, right?
Okay.
Turn off, shut down. So generally what winds up happening with folks, it sounds like this and his friends, is they're just too tired to go do anything.
Yeah, I can't relate because I've never been there, but I can only say observation. So I'm 43, he's 44, and I have let's go do it.
Yeah.
And I'm 33, and look how tired I am compared to Cody. Like I have that problem for sure.
But I see other people outside of that realm having similar issues. Something happened, it got damaged, and they can't shut it up. And they have to utilize other methods, other whatever it is to quiet the brain or whatever it is. So
that's why they do the marijuana. The problem with marijuana is it increases inflammation in the brain, so when the two hemispheres are stepping on the left hemisphere is stepping on the right hemisphere, and the right hemisphere is trying to talk to the left, saying, no, stop. You don't need to stress about that. That's not real, or that's not something you need to grab right now. There's this other thing, though, that you need to pay, right? So what's happening is anxiety is actually a physiological thing. It's not psychological, it's physiological, and it's the electromagnetic field of the left hemisphere stepping on the electromagnetic hemisphere of the right, or the electromagnetic field of the right hemisphere.
Okay.
Anybody who wants to try this, walk through a powerful electromagnetic, just a magnet or electrical field or a powerful electromagnetic field. You will feel hardcore anxiety, mild, depending on the field, mild anxiety to hardcore anxiety. Why? Because when you're going through that electromagnetic field, you're dysregulating the communication of the two hemispheres of your brain, right? So that's what anxiety is.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I've had that. You walk through a magnetic field because some of the stuff I've done, and
you feel anxious. You feel anxiety. Yeah. It's just because it's, there's this delicate balance of the two hemispheres, which are electromagnetic fields that are having to communicate through the corpus callosum, and you dysregulate that, and you're going to feel anxiety. Well, that's what anxiety is. It's not a thing. This is what the problem with post-traumatic stress. The post-traumatic stress is not the event or the memory of the event. It's the anxiety caused by the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere not talking to one another properly. And that creates an electromagnetic potential difference between them, which you physically feel. But because we're linguistic monkeys, we have to give it a narrative.
Yeah.
And so what's the narrative to understand it? And so because most of us don't study down to that level of biophysiological processes, et cetera. So we're linguistic monkeys. So we have to give it a narrative. Well, what in my life would have made me feel this off? Well, it's that traumatic event. Whereas you have somebody else that doesn't have the traumatic brain injuries, recovered from it, and they've had all kinds of traumatic events, and they don't feel that at all. They don't experience that at all. Why? Because the two hemispheres of the brain, the electromagnetic fields of the two hemispheres of the brain are not conflicting with one another. Now they might, even now, some few years later, every once in a while, I'll get some anxiety, but I know. Unfortunately, I figured this out when I started to have serious anxiety. By the way, I never thought anxiety was real.
Oh.
Till I started to recover from the brain injuries. And then, I was able to get, healthy enough to notice this difference. I never thought anxiety was real. I thought anxiety was weak people made up. I thought it was an excuse that weak people made up. So I owe a whole lot of people apologies that I'm not going to give, right? Screw that. Okay. But anxiety is real, and I know where it comes from now. The thing that got me through the anxiety is I knew it was a physiological thing when it was happening, and so my brain was throwing up all these narratives. And so what do? You just got to let it run through. You got to not hold on to it. You go, that's just the monkey brain talking monkey shit, right? That's the monkey throwing shit at you, right? It's your own monkey in your own brain, right? It's the linguistic monkey. Forgive my language. But
no, that's fine. Yeah.
You got to let that go. And then as soon as you possibly can, healthily, without drugs, et cetera, you need to sleep. Because even with brain injuries, if you can get to sleep, real healthy sleep, again, without chemicals, because then that's not gonna allow. What'll generally happen is that the two hemispheres will find a way, complexity, because you're sensing, your external sensing, real world sensing is turned off, and they will find a way to regulate that some. What happened for me as I was coming through the recovery, once that happened, and it might take me 2 or 3 days to get to where I could get a good healthy sleep. But I didn't hold on to things. I just let it go. It was wild. I would do some binaural or other things to distract me. Didn't drink, I never liked marijuana or any of that stuff anyways. As soon as I could get to sleep, what I would notice is the next morning, the anxiety would be gone and some neurocognitive process was back on.
Huh.
Yeah. It was literally a repair. It was trying to repair. And the problem is that what happens is guys give it that narrative, and the more you give it the narrative, the more you feed it, and the farther you push out getting to the actual repair that would make it go away.